And I asked him, you know, why are you doing this? He told me he could not secure a job. But what went back to my mind was, why would he choose to be a gardener rather than try to, you know, be entrepreneurial and even repair phones at the most basic level? You know, having an electronic and an electrical engineering course. So, you know, the quality part of it is really wanting, and the implementation of the policies as we talk about, unless we have honest discussions in the sense that we know this is our problem. We have this number of people we are channeling out of universities. Where are they going? You know, what jobs are we creating for them? And what culture are we even creating for them to be able to be self-sufficient, to be able to be self-employed? Yeah, I think unless we really have that honest conversation where we can be able to know that this is the problem at hand, and you know, the mushrooming, the number of people coming out from universities, and these vis-a-vis the employment opportunities.
Okay.
Yes.
Well noted points here, gentlemen. I do thank you. And let's now turn our attention to another equally developing matter that continues to be at the center of political debate in the country. And this pertains, of course, the impeachment of Governor Ferdinand Waititu, Kiambu County, on Thursday last week. And it came even despite the intervention of the party section, that is Raphael Tuju, the minister without portfolio, who wanted a no bad political image for the county government of the county government of Kiambu, and equally the home county of the president. If I may come to you, Mike, first on this important note, definitely the intervention of Tuju has been relatively little to save Waititu for that particular day. But what do you think is the recourse and the redress point here of the crisis that has continued to bedevil Kiambu County ever since the inception of devolution in 2013?
I don't think there was a problem in Kiambu County from 2013 to 2017. I think it was fairly okay. But 2017, something happened. And I can say it here. First, if you remember, if you can take your mind back, the Jubilee nominations in Mount Kenya region in 2017 were not very free and fair. They were tailored to produce certain results with 2022 in sight. And with that in mind, if you can see people who were viewed to be powerful enough, who would pose a threat in 2022, were elbowed out. Now, and one of them was, in my opinion, was the then governor of Kiambu, Kabogo. Then Waititu was brought in. Along the way, Waititu had served his purpose. Kiambu is not just an ordinary county, in my opinion, in the politics of Kenya. There are so many interests involved. For heaven's sake, it is also the president's county. He may appear like he's not interested in what goes on in there, but he's a politician. Politicians behave like that.
Okay.
So, for anybody to be governor of Kiambu, he must be very careful at any given time, because there are so many interests at play. And just look at the impeachment that happened against Waititu. They needed 62 votes. They got 63 for the motion and 1 against. Now, mobilizing these numbers is not for a poor man. Resources went into this thing. And if you look around, I don't think that the deputy governor can marshal resources to make such a thing happen. There were other forces.
So in your view, there are other external players
Correct.
Who wanted Waititu out?
Correct. So it is not even about Tuju. Tuju is helpless in as far as Kiambu is concerned.
Tuju just wanted to save the day. He never wanted the county government in crisis.
He can't.
Especially from the president's angle.
He can't. Tuju cannot. There are forces there. There are external forces in Kiambu that want Waititu out. And they will succeed. It starts like that usually. Inaendanga pole pole. But eventually they will do it, because there is politics involved here. And the options are very clear. They've already managed to pass an impeachment motion. Waititu was in Nakuru with some of his MCAs.
He was watching from Nakuru County.
And those MCAs, one strange thing about what they said in Nakuru, they were not inside the hall in Kiambu, but they knew the number that was inside that hall. It's still a mystery to me. But the vote went on, and it was passed. Now you know what? According to the law, the only recourse that Waititu has is the matter goes to the Senate. Senate is convened. The law says that Senate will now appoint an 11-member committee to investigate the grounds of impeachment. If the 11-member committee agrees with the grounds of impeachment, it takes the report back to the full plenary of Senate.
Okay.
Then Senate votes on it on a simple majority. If Senate agrees with the report of the 11-member committee,
all right,
goes home. But I want you also to remember the Kiambu matter. Since 2013, there is no governor who has ever been removed from office.
Yes, but there were impeachments.
There were impeachments.
In the case of Nyeri.
You know why?
Embu.
Because the process is very complicated. You can finish the legislative part all the way up to the Senate. Then, that is when now the judicial part begins. That is how Wambora survived. From Senate, then he moved to High Court. From High Court, Court of Appeal. From Court of Appeal, Supreme Court. So it's not going to be a walk in the park.
Okay.
But his goose is roasted.
Okay, thank you. Cyrus, before we come to the Senate aspect here, because as a safeguard of devolution, it seemed to have been the player at most accused of being absent in the game. But when you look at Governor Ferdinand Waititu, of course, he was given the political trust in 2017 in ensuring he becomes the governor. I mean, about 1.2 million people. Yeah. That's not just a number for that matter in that particular case because of the political significance it does come with. But when you look at Ferdinand Waititu, did he abuse the political trust bestowed upon him in the event of the people now taking out the authority from the governor, former governor, that is William Kabogo? And in many ways, was he strategic enough to make some political faults which attracted the attention of the county assembly?
To your question, I'll say yes. He has betrayed the voters of Kiambu in a larger way. Why? He portrayed Kabogo as an enemy of the people of Kiambu, okay? And he brought himself as the man of the people for Kiambu. And looking at what Kabogo did in a nutshell, which I can mention few, Kabogo did like he brought the cancer thing in Kiambu when he was the governor. There are a few things that Kabogo did. To me, I believe if Waititu meant good for the Kiambu people, and from the first day when Waititu declared his interest in Kiambu, I knew Waititu is not going to serve the people of Kiambu, but is going to serve his own interests and the interests of other top politicians in the country. Waititu, what he has done to himself, he has achieved whatever he wanted to achieve. Because his idea was not to serve the people of Kiambu, but to prove he could make Kabogo fail, one. Two, to prove that the Jubilee Party itself has divisions. Because you can remember in the nomination fiasco between Kiambu and Nairobi, the way they were, it can tell you that's where the divide in Jubilee was started showing up. And for Tuju not to come out clearly, it's just that this is where now our political parties have failed. And I've always said the political parties act is just but they're wasting taxpayers' money on the expense of just being in office, but not delivering to the people. Because as a party, Tuju has failed Nairobi and Kiambu. As a Secretary General of a party, if really Jubilee is a political party, okay? If truly Jubilee is a political party, then it has to start from the party itself. Okay. I saw when ODM, I'm sorry to quote, but I saw when ODM had some changes in the county assembly of Nairobi. The report came, the communication came from the party itself. that we are for this and not for this, and that is how it was, and it restored sanity in the county assembly.
Why do you think then that the Jubilee Party is unable to take control of the party in terms of restoring order in Nairobi and Kiambu counties?
The Jubilee Party has failed because there is no leadership within the party. Whatever we have is a puppet leadership in the party itself, because even Tuju himself is just but a puppet on top there. Jubilee itself, it has not come as a party and sat down and say, now this is what we promised the people of Kenya and Nairobi and also Kiambu, but it has just sat on the periphery, just looking at the fights, just watching and let the common mwananchi suffer at their own expense. Because right now, if we were headed to a general election where Jubilee was going to get, let me say it was a competition like the one it was in 2017, I'm very sure right now you could have seen Jubilee talk. But why is it that it's not talking? And it is just but in fractions. Right now what we see, we are hearing of Kieleweke and Tangatanga are convening just to ensure that they save one of their own. What are we saying?
Okay, Bishage, if I may come to you then, a lot plays out because it's a case of a cobweb scenario here, because it has some consequences on one end, because Waititu equally is facing a double tragedy situation because of the Court of Appeal which upheld Judge Lady Justice Mumbi Ngugi's High Court ruling which barred corrupt governors allegedly from going to their offices. But in this particular regard, the political aspect and element of it, do you think that it clearly mirrors the Jubilee Party's inner political problems that seem unaddressed, especially by the president, who has been definitively silent about the internal wrangles and unable to put up the house together?
Let us first of all go to the background of Kiambu as a county. Since independence, we had political groups that really tried to topple people who were against the leadership of Mount Kenya. And we had people who really fought. We had the Kiambu Mafia, so to speak. So when you look at Kiambu in itself, it is a very sensitive county. A county that Waititu needed to come, or rather anybody who comes into Kiambu needs to be very careful. And I mean, unfortunate as it is, the voters of Kiambu voted in Waititu, number one, based on trust, because he transitioned from Embakasi, went, tried Nairobi, came back, failed.
Became a member of parliament to a by-election.
Yes, went to Kikuyu, they entrusted him. But now the unfortunate part again is they voted in Waititu to punish Kabogo. So here the question now comes in, who is to blame? Anyway, what I want to say is about generally Jubilee. Jubilee, if you subscribe to a political party, there is a manifesto. Jubilee in itself cannot work in isolation in isolation of the leaders beneath it. It has to, it has to achieve whatever is in its manifesto through its governors, through its MPs, through its senators, and through its, MCAs.
Okay.
But what we have seen politically is we see people grouping up to protect one of their own. That's the unfortunate part. And, the common mwananchi is the one who is suffering. Unless really the president comes in and understands that he cannot achieve anything, and I mean anything including the four agenda, he needs to put his house in order so that he can be able to achieve, because whatever he says must cascade. The triple effect must be felt up to the MCA who is under Jubilee. That's my take. So the president needs to put the Jubilee House in order.
Okay, Mike, if I may come to you. When you look at the Jubilee Party, no parliamentary group meeting for 2 years now, ever since the 2017 elections, and the echo chamber of concerns, especially in the president's mountainous, the House of Mumbi, if I may call, backyard, which continues to look into a political future in an uncertain way. Therefore, when you look at Waititu and Kiambu County generally, it's part of just the microcosm of the general problems that continue to bedevil the ruling Jubilee Party in the country. Do you think then that the current political crisis, especially at the Mount Kenya region level, might disenfranchise the ruling Jubilee Party from attaining what they say is ruling the country until 2032. That was in 2016. And then number 2, how does the president, the head of the party, untangle these wrangles within the party for prosperity and perhaps attain the dream that they outlined alongside his deputy in 2016?
Thank you, Ayub. Let me just explain to you and put the discussion into context. What I have studied in Kenyan politics ever since the return of multipartyism, and let's just get to the time that Moi left power in 2002. We had NAC that swept Kibaki to power, 2002. 2007, by 2007, Kibaki had abandoned NAC completely and formed PNU. It is PNU that now took Kibaki to power, which was Kibaki 2. Remember, NAC did not commit any crime, but it was thrown out. Kibaki abandoned it and left it and formed PNU. After 2007, PNU now took Kibaki to Kibaki 2. Everybody thought PNU was going to produce the successor to Kibaki. All of a sudden, Uhuru Kenyatta came up with TNA, and Ruto came up with the URP. So they abandoned PNU and they went into Uhuruto 1. By Uhuruto 2 in 2017, they had now merged these parties and now it was Jubilee Party.
Okay.
Now, if we follow that trajectory, my prediction is by the time we reach 2022, the current Jubilee Party as we know it will be insignificant.
Meaning a new political vehicle will be born out?
In my opinion, it is a deliberate trajectory.
Then isn't it unfortunate when you look at that, because ever since 1991, during the multi-party elections and the subsequent elections that followed, we have had a number of political players and parties cropping up in the establishment, but of less delivery of services to the common mwananchi. The pointing, the prophecy is that in 2022, we are likely going to be witnessing, as per your sentiments, new political outfits. Then is it not further denting a political establishment already punctuated by allegations of corruption, incompetence, and patronage?
Two things. One, our politics is defined by ethnicity or by ethnic lords or ethnic warlords. And they usually carry the people like in a sack behind their backs. If today Raila Odinga was to walk out of ODM and form a party called ABC, you will see all his supporters follow him there. If today Uhuru Kenyatta was to walk out of Jubilee and form a party and say, from today, my party is XYZ, you will see all his supporters go there. Because our politics are very ethnic. We follow the ethnic warlord. That is one thing. Two, our politicians are not very, they are not very silly. They know many things. They make election promises that they have no intention of fulfilling.
Okay.
And that is why at the succeeding election, they come now with a completely different party and they pretend that they are now new people. And yet they are the same fellows who made those same old promises which they did not want to implement, and they did not implement them. And now they want to pretend that now this is a completely new Kenya and this is a new vehicle and you should vote for us. That is why they keep reinventing themselves.
How does the president then address this particular problem? At what point do you think he will come in and perhaps untangle this wrangle?
You know, your question assumes that he does not know what's happening.
That's precisely the point. Is it deliberate ignoring, or? In
my opinion, it's very deliberate. He knows what's happening and he backs it, he supports it. Otherwise, he would have intervened. Okay. He's aware.
Okay, Cyrus, yes. When you look at the Kiambu situation, Waititu Woos, and the general sense of, the lack of services felt by the county, of course, the people in Kiambu County, how does the Kiambu County government perhaps justify the catalogue of problems that have been the punctuating points of the county administration? Because either way, the Kabogo administration wasn't that hands clean off when it comes to allegations of corruption.
Thank you, Ayub. Looking at what is happening in the counties, massive looting that leads to corruption, whereby the governors go there not to serve the interests of the people, but to serve their own interests.
And is that a general trend across the devolved units?
Yes, all the governors. There's no governor who is clean. there's no governor who has done justice to their people. There are no MCAs who have legislated the way they are supposed to legislate in the county assemblies to ensure that their people get the service delivery. Okay? So the problem we are facing in the country is when we come and make the wrong choices. One. Two, when we don't question the service delivery that these people are supposed to deliver to us, when we don't question our governors, when we don't take our MCAs up to task. Because if you take each and every MCA from each and every corner of this country, and if each MCA is result-oriented, then this country will be far.
Okay.
When you look at the devolution itself, yes, it's a good tool, but the people we have trusted with to spearhead the devolution agenda are not doing justice to us. Because if, for example, in Nairobi, the 85 wards are well managed and agendas well implemented, because each and every MCA went to their wards when campaigning with their manifesto. If each and every leader can deliver the manifesto they had to the people, okay, then this country will be very far away.
Okay.
In the dispensation of the new constitution on the devolved governance system.
Okay, in your case, then, all scenario, perhaps the point you're trying to express is that there is a case of a capacity, but that capacity is incapacitated by the leadership currently in place.
Yes.
Then how do we move out of this particular problem? Because we seem to be in the deep hole.
The only way you can move out from this deeper problem, it is when we, the common mwananchi, will now bring our leaders to accountability. There is a clause in there is a section in the Constitution that allows us to recall
Article 90, if I'm not wrong, 95.
Yes, recall our leaders. But there is also an impediment to it, because when we recall them, they still have to go, the process has to go back to either county assembly or the parliament. And you remember, this parliament will defend their own. This county assembly will defend their own. In the case of, one member of parliament was trying to be recalled in the first phase of election. It was, I think, 2015, 2016 there.
Okay.
The MP for Mgwen. Okay, he was being recalled. He was recalled by the members, the constituents.
Okay.
But what happened later? He was saved by the parliament. What does it tell us? What does it tell us? We don't have a right even to what is supposed to be ours.
Okay, Cyrus, I'll pause you on that particular note, and after coming back from the break, Bashagi, I'll take your comments on that before we take a look at the last and the final story on the last segment of the program that pertains the ODM factor here, which has not walked away from the NASA marriage 46 days after the November 7th, 2019 by-elections in Kibra constituency, which eventually its candidate, Imran Banat Okoth, emerged the winner. And of course, this follows the sentiments in the campaign build-up period, which was expressed by the Secretary Edwin Sifuna, who said that the NASA coalition has ended, but ODM seems much well in the marriage. 0791-478-990 is the number, the hashtag on Twitter is NewDayKE, the short SMS code is 40920. Stay tuned, we are coming back after the short break. Welcome back. You're watching the program into the final segment of the show here on New Day KE. That is the hashtag on Twitter. And I'll take the last comments on the Waititu factor here, the possible blame political game that's likely to play out between the Kieleweke and Tanga Tanga faction of the ruling Jubilee Party. Will it be perhaps, or will it offer a chance for the two divides in the ruling Jubilee Party, the two fractions, to perhaps carry on with their political tone regarding a person who is now at the epicenter of a political crisis in Kiambu County?
I think what we need to understand as an electorate is that democracy is quite something. It's quite expensive and can be very costly.
Okay.
If the voters understand what is their role, what is their take on matters governance and understanding how to dictate the political direction of this country, then we would be a country that is merited enough to develop the right, to take the right trajectory, as he said. And I think the political elite, they understand. The problem with this country is that our politicians know so much than the electorate.
Okay.
So they tend to metamorphosize according to how we react and according to how we behave. Case in point, we have the most controversial song released by one of the artists.
Yes, King Kaka.
King Kaka.
Or Kang Kaka.
Yes.
As Pastor said.
which indeed, we can laugh about it. It's quite laughable, but indeed, when at the deepest part of your conscious,
Yes.
as an individual, he's talking a lot of sense. A lot of sense. But when we regroup collectively, it becomes, oh, so-and-so is being fought, oh, no, oh, women are being fought, oh, you know, I think we really need a true realization of our worth as an electorate.
Okay.
And once we understand that, we will not have two groups regrouping themselves to control. Because what is really happening is they are regrouping themselves
Okay.
to control us. As he says, same monkeys, different, same
forest.
same forest, different monkeys. They are just regrouping
Okay.
themselves again so that they can take control of us as an electorate and then tell us now we are coming in as, you know, to take you to a different maybe city. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And it's equally important, pertinent point. But just finishing up on that, let me just do it with a follow-up question here. When you mentioned the fact that there seems to be a sort of disconnect between the electorate and the leadership in the country, do you presume that in 2022 a chance might come for Kenyans to do a paradigm shift?
We have, you know, drums of revolution are beating. And there will come a time in this country when people will say enough is enough. And do not underestimate a group of, I would say, people say do not underestimate a group of fools. I would say do not underestimate a group of hungry Kenyans. The level of unemployed youths themselves will carry a revolution if the government does not, you know, take an about turn. So for me, what I feel is the disconnect, in as much as there is, there will come a time when we will put sense, either using diplomacy or other crude ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to get that cartoon edition of the Star newspaper. Hopefully we can have that up on air. It regards, of course, the pointing cases of what happened in a difference of about 24 hours, just a day after Donald Trump was impeached in the United States. And on Thursday, Ferdinand Waititu was equally impeached in Kiambu County. Therefore, that was an editorial cartoon in the Star newspaper. I don't know where we can have that up on air. Hopefully our producer can... Yeah, generally a case of perhaps the pictorial evidence which captured the two different scenarios, but again on the same campus, facing the same consequences. That was in Kiambu County, and equally one that equally had affected Donald Trump's presidency in the House of Representatives in the UK, equally moved to the Senate for that matter to be heard in January 2020. Mike, if I may come to you on to the last segment here, and this regards, of course, the story highlighted on the front page of the Standard newspaper, why Raila Odinga's ODM party is yet to walk away from the NASA fraternity 46 days after winning the Kibra parliamentary by-elections in Nairobi County, in which its candidate, Imran Bernard Okoth, clinched the seat. If I may come to you, Mike, there seemed to be a source of perhaps the problem here, which is all parties now aggrieved, but in majority they feel ODM is the bully brother, the bully factor here in the NASA coalition or marriage. Do you think that the opposition NASA Super Alliance is oozing some political blood and might be a victim of a political walkaway by all parties before 2022, as you earlier alluded?
Thank you, Ayub. Now, dealing with coalitions, let me talk from a policy perspective. There is the politics of it, and there is the law. Let me begin with the law. The law allows for formation of pre-election coalitions and or post-election coalitions. Pre means you enter into an agreement before elections are held, and post means you wait for elections to be held, and then you sit down, Mike, Cyrus, and Richard, and we form a coalition. The law allows for that. The Constitution allows for it, and the Political Parties Act allows for it. That's done. But let me now get to the politics of coalitions in this country. One, coalitions are not entered into because people feel good about them. Coalitions are entered into because at an individual party level, you realize that kwa ground vitu ni different. So you better join ranks with Cyrus and Richard so that you can win an election. It is never love matter. It is because it makes sense to come together to win. If you don't, and this is the second thing, if you don't enter into a coalition with Richard and Cyrus, your opponents will, and you are finished.
So in most aspects, it's a marriage of convenience.
Correct. That is it. That is usually the truth about it. Secondly, I have observed Kenyan coalitions. In my opinion, they are vehicles for defrauding the people. They're basically vehicles for defrauding the people. You see tribal warlords come together and then they go to the podium and they say, you know, we've come together because we are united and this is the face of Kenya and we are very interested in the future of this country. That is why. But that is not true. They enter into coalitions because of selfish interests. And that is why they also should change each other inside these coalitions. Already there is a problem inside NASA that the political parties fund only went to one guy. The other guys didn't get it.
That's about 4 billion to the ODM party.
And the guy is not talking about it. People are complaining and it's just quiet. So even, you see, these coalitions are even vehicles for defrauding the people. And that is why they even should change themselves inside them.
Okay, Cyrus, if I may come to you, why do you think the ODM is feeling aggrieved here? Is it playing two sort of scenarios here in regards to the divisions in the opposition NASA Super Alliance? That was their political vehicle in 2017. When you look at its conduct politically at the moment, 46 days later, it isn't abiding by what it pledged. That was Edwin Sifuna's comments that it will walk away from the coalition. A victor or the victim card here?
ODM is playing a victim card to some extent. Because one, when you look at the people who are championing and talking loud of leaving the NASA fraternity, are not the same people who sat on the agreement to come up with NASA. The minds between NASA were different minds. People like Edwin Sifuna were not part and parcel of the NASA, of the born of NASA, or coming up of NASA. They were just people who were told, there's something that has come up called NASA, and this is how we want to go to the election in 2017. So they don't know the deeper stories of NASA, how it came, and the vision of NASA, and how it needs to grow. So that's why they go out and shout anyhowly of leaving, and yet they don't have the mechanisms of living. And I pity somebody like Edwin Sifuna, who is a lawyer, who comes and tries to fool people who have little knowledge about law, and yet who are good readers. Because you cannot come and fool us on document that was well documented and presented, okay, before the Political Parties Act. That is a legal there's a legal binding document that is there. That you cannot go against that legal binding document and just say you want to pull out. No. This is a marriage that when you need to leave or when you want to leave, there is a process you need to follow. And that process has so many implications. Because when they want to leave right now, and everybody will go crying, we need our share that we agreed upon. Because that's how it is. There are serious implications towards the divorce of NASA. And that is why ODM itself is playing low. And the key players in NASA like Orengo, have you heard him talk about the NASA thing? Have you heard even Zani talk about the NASA thing? Have you heard key people like even TJ Kajwang talk about the NASA? No. You hear about the puppets like Edwin Sifuna and Babu Owino and other people talking about the NASA. But the real people behind the NASA itself are very silent because they know what implications it has.
Okay, if I may come to you, Bishage, when you look at the current state of the opposition and the main party, that is the ODM party, its party leader is, of course, on the political bed, the sort of bromance between Kenyatta and Odinga ever since the handshake. Is it perhaps a precipitating factor that might, in the end, lead to the collapse or disintegration of the NASA coalition?
You know, in this country, we play politics of either reaction or proaction.
Yes.
NASA is a formation that came out after Jubilee was formed. It was a reaction on how best to defeat the opponent, not how best to serve Kenyans. So when we have that mindset, we need to look at, indeed, why was NASA formed? Look at it from this perspective. Politics, again, in this country, has been looked as if it's a matter of life and death. So we moved from issues of development to issues of trying to create unity, you know, through the handshake. So automatically killed the opposition, because opposition really would have been very objective if it was indeed matters governance.
Okay.
But now we prioritized issues of unity because our politics are a matter of life and death. I think it is important, first of all, as a nation, we ask ourselves what type of politics we want to play. Is it innovative politics that would ensure that systems are working? Or is it, politics that only reacts to what our opponents are doing so that we can defeat them, so that we can have power? So, I mean, that's the question we need, first of all, to ask ourselves. Number two, we need to move from, we need to move from the aspect of trying to look as politics as a matter of, if it is not us, it is us. I saw the other day when after the handshake, one of the core principles, that is Wetangula,
Yes.
automatically, saying
Became the first casualty when he was removed from the leader of the
angrily
minority party. Yes.
saying that NASA is dead. And this is the main political opposition party.
Okay.
So we need to really ask ourselves the hard questions if we are to move forward on matters politics.
Okay. Mike, if I may come to you, the ODM party here is the specific element that we're focusing on in the NASA coalition, because all the other parties feel contented to stay in the marriage. They are here, they are in for it. But again, the ODM party has another card to balance on the table. That is the divisions within the party itself of either wanting a powerful prime minister's position or as currently proposed in the BBI form. And this again further is widening the rift within the ODM party. I mean, how do they come together? What is the converging point here of the party to an extent that it does keep the coalition card intact and equally play the national politics well in terms of reserving its interest for 2022?
I can give you my take on ODM. I'm not a member, but I understand the politics of ODM very clearly. ODM will follow what Raila says. If he wants the position of a powerful prime minister as a party, that is what the party will follow. It is a totally immaterial what those other members of ODM will say. That is how ODM operates.
Okay.
As for the coalition, I don't know. I don't know if the coalition will come up with a common position regarding the BBI or any other provision in the BBI, because I don't know what Ford Kenya says about the position of Prime Minister. I don't know what ANC says about the position of Prime Minister. And then I don't know if the NASA will even think about sitting around a table and coming up with a common position. First, because, the handshake. The BBI was a product of the handshake of the 9th of March 2018.
Yes.
And it was between two people, the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the Honorable Raila Odinga. In their own wisdom, they decided that the other people were not supposed to be with them in that conversation room. What they discussed there, we don't know. When they came out, they told us what they wanted us to hear. Whether they told us the truth or they told us something else, we will never tell. But that was their arrangement. It never factored in anybody else other than the two of them.
Okay.
So the BBI, in my opinion, was supposed to take care of them. Not you, not Cyrus, not even Richard. Once it takes care of their interests, they expect us to follow.
And is that isn't it, Cyrus, if I may come to you then, the point here of continuous disgruntlement and the perpetual continuity of failure by the political system, and on this specific element, individualization, the lack of ideologies and policies in the political structure of the governance, which has been present and effective ever since 1992.
Not even only 1992. Even way back after we gained the independence, 1963, we've seen the political parties centering their own interests. In a few scenarios, I can say we had a coalition in 1967, 65 there, between KANU and KADU. Mm-hmm. But where did they differ later? They differed on ideology. Because the ideology of the KADU people was not the same as the ideology of the KANU people. Mm-hmm. That's where they differed and drifted away and said, this is what we're championing for, and not what you are championing for. So they hate to leave. But right now, when you look at the scenario we have at the moment, from the coalition of was KPU and other things that led to formation of Ford, okay, which led to the formation of other Ford Asili, Ford G-Watt, mm-hmm. Ford people. There was no ideology. People were centering or fronting their own interests, which were not matching with the interests of other people. Okay? And that's why it led to disintegration or disunity within the coalitions. Come to KANU NDP coalition. It was a short-lived coalition. Because, one, people were looking at now being fronted as the preferred presidential candidates in the KANU party. Okay? But it didn't agger well with them. Then they decided, let us now move. They went and formed another coalition called NAC. Okay? Within NAC, they won an election. But after that, there was a cry out whereby people said, whatever we agreed upon has not been achieved. Looking at what was to be agreed upon, or what was agreed upon when they sat down. They agreed that we need to come up with a position of a prime minister, 2 deputies, 2 deputy prime ministers. Now this has not been achieved. Now our interest has not been catered for.
So in other words, it's an individual interest.
It is not the interest of the common mwananchi, but the interest of the individual, the political class, which want to benefit themselves. It is not ending soon. Now, we came and formed another thing called the Grand Coalition. Okay. The Grand Coalition came after the skirmishes in 2008. Now, it brought the thing of the Prime Minister, which people cried out and marched out in the NAC government. Now, they got it. After that, now, when we came to elections, now you saw it had a very big cabinet secretary. So many people were put in place.
42 assistant ministers.
Why? Mm-hmm. It was serving their interest. Why were they comfortable? It was serving their interest by then, but not the interest of the common mwananchi. Now we came to the new constitution that allowed for the political parties to form coalitions either after or before the elections. Now we came with the code and we came up with the Jubilee Coalition. Yes. Okay? And then we look at the Jubilee Coalition. It promised people what did it deliver? Did it deliver? No. It only served their interest. Look at code. It never went anywhere, because if it were to stay, if it were the best, it had the best ideologies for the people, then code could be living up to now.
So in other words, we expect, according to that timeline of series that you have mentioned or laid out, we expect a form of new political outfit in 2022.
Very true. We are looking at having...
Then how do you end this perpetual continuity then? Where is the end point?
The end point, it goes back to the voter. Because when it comes to voting, sincerely speaking, and should be the mandate of IEBC. This is well documented in the IBC, in the Elections Act. The role of IBC is also to educate the voters. And educating the voters, you need to educate the voters on who is the best person to vote. What credentials do you need to look into a person whom you need to vote for? A leader, okay? Not only just conducting elections and going, no. There's a bigger role of IBC that it needs to carry out. There's a bigger role of the Political Parties Act that it needs to carry out to sanitize the political system that we have in the country. Because we have so many breakfast political parties in the country that have known any agenda for the people.
Okay, thank you. Pause there before I'll come back to you. Bishange, there is the important element here that we're discussing about the ODM party, the NASA coalition, the Jubilee Party, and the parties that have folded to form the Jubilee Party. But the element here is about these parties servicing Kenyans of what they intended or what they have constituted or the components which were present in their manifestos prior to the election period. And equally, when you look at that, there seems to be a failure that was equally very present and omnipresent, for that matter, in the previous elections in this country. Where is the clean political break here? Because we seem to be in this continuity after every electoral cycle.
I have been quoted here again saying that there is a disconnect between the voter and our politicians. We need to look, as voters, we really need to view our politicians in a 360 dimension.
Okay.
In the sense that what they promise in the first year, they continue delivering in the second and the third, and by the time it's the fifth year, they should be completing what they had promised. But look at the real scenario. The first year, they will regroup themselves as Jubilee, as NASA, as whatever. Come to us, campaign, tell us, we are going, this is our manifesto, we are going to deliver a number of stadiums, this and this. We vote them in. Based on trust, this being an ethnic nation,
okay,
we regroup also ourselves into our ethnic cocoons. We vote one of our own. Second year, we hope that maybe one of our own is really would really deliver whatever he promised to us. The unfortunate part, as we progress, they are also re-strategizing on the next election. Look at 2017.
Okay.
Immediately after the election, I think a year or so, people started politicking on 2022.
Yes, which still continues.
Which still continues. What about if they came to us rather than politicking and telling us that indeed this is what we promised, we have been able to do this,
okay,
vis-a-vis what we are delivering.
Okay.
Look at it, if we don't ask ourselves as an electorate, we hold our leaders accountable, as my friend said. We need to hold our leaders accountable. What they promised in the first year, do they continue to deliver? They promise. An example would be the Kimorer and
and the whole host of other multi-billion
scandals. It's in the process of implementing, a scandal comes out.
Okay.
The unfortunate part.
Asante, gentlemen, can I give you 30 seconds? Because
Yeah,
I
30
actually want
seconds.
us to take a look at this video, which is very, very important.
Okay, let me just say something, kidogo, 30 seconds on that. As Kenyans, we have a problem. We lack a strategy to hold our leaders accountable.
Okay.
That is problem number one. Number two, we use ethnic lenses to influence our judgment of performance of politicians. And that is where we always miss the point.
If I can come in, what we need in this country, we want peace. And you see, peace, and when we want peace, we need to struggle for what we call social justice.
Okay.
Whatever we have right now is social injustice. And it is high time we need to borrow from our colonial masters, the Britain. Look at how Britain conduct their elections, how they conduct themselves. It is just the other time you had the leader of Liberal Democrats saying that I'm not going to vie for elections, and I'm not going to lead the Liberals in the next election. Why? Because he has failed. You don't need to be a president for you to know that you fail. Even from where you sit, you are a failure. When you go to parliament and fail to deliver to the people through your role as a parliamentarian. Okay? So what we need is social justice to our people.
And political responsibility.
And political responsibility.
Okay, away from the discussion then, gentlemen, let's take a look at this video on a lighter note, and I'll want your comments on this video, so we have it up. Yes, Mike?
What?
Would you like to comment on that?
On that video is, I've seen, my interpretation of it is, I've seen an insatiable lady who can't get enough of what the guy is serving her. I don't know if the guy is her husband or whoever he is, but she doesn't seem to get enough of what she served. Now, and then the guy decides to give her now the whole sufuria aende nayo. It's an interesting video in itself because it says many things about human nature. It's not one, according to me, it says that it's not very easy to satisfy a human being. Two, I think everybody should work for what they need. But if, like this guy seems to be giving her handouts are never enough. So that is the lesson I'm getting.
Okay.
Let everybody work for what they want. Wasingoje ya mwingine, because hiyo ya mwingine will never be enough for anybody else.
Okay. Yes, Cyrus, briefly.
What I can just say from the video is that we entrust people with the leadership to serve us. But when they serve us, they give us peanuts and retain the huge part to themselves. So what we need to do is to compose ourselves and go for what is ours, not as an individual, but as a group, and ask for accountability from our leaders.
Okay. Yes, Bishage.
Well, quite interesting indeed. But I look at it from a scenario-based perspective. And doesn't mean that I'm not a patriot, but I think it's a challenge I would want to pose to Kenyans. Because I look at the man being the electorate, the woman being our leaders. We serve them, we entrust them. We tell them this is enough for you to work. This is enough for you to eat. You know, this is your salary. We will pay you this for you to deliver the services.
Okay.
But again, the electorate loses hope. I think we have lost hope. We say now, we have given the permission to our leaders to loot. Take it all. We will work it out. But we don't understand the impact that it has in our livelihoods.
Okay, Mike, if I may come to you again, your Christmas plans?